First up, we have Unfaris Wheel versus Super Smash Power. Unfaris Wheel starting off in the red corner there, that big vertical spinning disc, and Super Smash Power getting underneath them now with that big flipper on the front there. Good little bit of a tip there, putting Unfaris Wheel up against the wall. Now getting underneath them again, tipping over, and Unfaris Wheel bouncing around off of its spinning weapon, ending up upside down, kind of rolling around the ground as Super Smash Power gets behind him, tries to pin them into the corner, holding there for a moment, but then Unfaris Wheel flips back over, possibly off of their weapon, back right onto the floor. Once again, Super Smash Power getting underneath, a nice little bit of a tip there. Not sure if that was the spinning weapon of Unfaris or if that was the flipper off Smash Power, but getting them up and off the wall again, landing back on their feet. Unfaris Wheel stuck in the corner as Super Smash Power is keeping them well pinned in there, getting around them using those long little fingers on the front to get in the way. Unfaris Wheel having a little bit of trouble getting out of the corner here. Seems that they're not able to really progress forward very well at this point. Kind of stuck as Super Smash Power is taking advantage of that, just bashing it into them again and again, keeping them in the corner. Not quite pinning them there, but now Unfaris Wheel definitely not making any progress. Super Smash sitting back, waiting for a moment. Unfaris restarting power. Nothing seems to be working as Super Smash Power waves at us with their flipper, but it does look like this is going to be the end, and the win goes to Super Smash Power. Next up, we have Hot Air versus Chaos Unleashed. Over in the red corner, we see Chaos Unleashed, a very interesting full-body drum spinner style I've never seen before, up against Hot Air, that is a Weta-style Beetle kit with the beater bar-style spinning drum on the front. So far, Chaos Unleashed getting bounced around all over the place, manages to get in the pit, but then immediately bounces back out. It just barely fits in there to begin with, but there's so much momentum in that thing. As Hot Air is bouncing into it, kind of keeping it in the corner, Chaos Unleashed flapping about wildly, already taking some damage to those, the end pieces, I suppose, especially the yellow one. It's really coming apart in pieces. There's chunks of yellow plastic everywhere. It is still holding together and doing its job, but this thing is completely out of control all over the place as Hot Air is slowly but methodically approaching, hitting it when it has an opportunity to, trying to make sure not to make any too large moves as it gets another tip on it, hitting it up against the wall, but right back down into the arena. And Chaos Unleashed is exactly that. It is flip-flopping all over the place like a fish out of water here and just trying to get any semblance of control. Does come to a momentary stop here, Hot Air taking a pause and then hitting it from the side towards the pit. Unfortunately, not quite able to get it into there. Another good hit, this time actually engaging well, putting it up into the wall. And at this point, Chaos Unleashed seems to be actually doing quite a bit of damage to itself. That yellow piece seems to be just about ready to come off. It is all over the place, and even the drum itself is really twitching around, I suppose because it's not being held off the ground correctly. A little bit of a tap there. It looked like Hot Air might have actually gotten flipped over by Chaos, and I see a belt hanging out on the side of that spinner on Hot Air. So at some point, the belt has come loose. They no longer have their spinning drum weapon, but that doesn't stop Hot Air from going into Chaos Unleashed, who, because of their own speed and momentum, is bouncing all over the place into the pit momentarily, but does pop back out again. Hot Air with a nice fast attack into Chaos Unleashed, just using that big front end as a battering ram at this point, but works very well against this really wild drum spinner, as Chaos Unleashed is still holding up despite all the damage that it's taken and just flip-flopping all over the place. Hot Air not giving it a moment's rest, coming into it again and again, trying to keep it towards that pit area. Maybe if they can get it to stay in the pit when it's slowed down, it will get stuck there. But in the meantime, there's just so much momentum. It just keeps moving. And even though Hot Air doesn't have an active weapon at the moment, Chaos is still losing pieces of plastic, especially off that already damaged yellow end, as once again Hot Air goes in, uses the front as a shield, and takes it on the chin in order to throw Chaos into the air, now pushing Chaos into the edge of the pit, which again, flying into the air. Hot Air attacking again and again, being very aggressive and actually maintaining quite good control, despite the fact that it's trying to follow this football around that is just bouncing everywhere. This time a couple times Hot Air putting itself into Chaos, which actually does manage to flip Hot Air backwards a couple of times, so there is definitely some power in that Chaos Unleashed, but again, Hot Air coming in immediately, taking it on the chin. 10 seconds still to go. This might come down to a judge's decision here. Hot Air taking its time, maybe just waiting, maybe disabled. Hard to tell exactly, but we are getting the countdown here. No, it's definitely in it, and it's a KO. At the buzzer, the judges have called it for Chaos Unleashed. For the next fight, we have Son of Boy versus Yuge. Yuge definitely inspired by the BattleBots of a very similar name, up against Son of Boy, which is actually similar to Boy that we just saw in the Antweight fights. This one here, vertical, looks like a two-piece disc spinner, similar to a drum spinner, kind of halfway in between here. And then Son of Boy got that big vertical spinning disc in the center that takes a hard hit into Son of Boy, flipping them onto their backside, which it looks like Boy is having a lot of trouble moving around here. Yuge taking advantage of the situation, getting over top, getting lots of nice hard hits in there, and actually flipping Son of Boy back onto their wheels. Yuge not letting up, consistently trying to get in there hard. A hard hit on the side, and the belt has come off of Son of Boy, so that weapon is now disabled. Looks like the left side drive also not working very well. Yuge is sitting back, making sure that it doesn't interrupt anything, gives Son of Boy his 10 seconds to count down, but it looks like that may be the end of it. And the win goes to Yuge. Starting off the second round, we have NotDeadYet versus Instant Gratification. You'll see the very wide body of Instant Gratification over there by the blue corner. NotDeadYet in the red corner, not really advancing out. It looks like maybe either they're just taking their time to get things spun up. A hard hit on Instant Gratification. Oh my goodness, NotDeadYet goes flying diagonally up and across the arena. Big chunk of plastic laying there. Looks like that was actually the lifter arm off of Instant Gratification. Completely torn off at this point. Both of them still operational otherwise, and NotDeadYet fully up to speed, pirouetting around, trying to get around to the side of Instant Gratification to avoid that armor. Gratification now up against the wall with its backside toward it, not really moving. Gratification giving it a moment, but then coming in and getting a hard hit onto the exposed back corner of this bot. Looks like Gratification not able to get moving, going to be coming down to the 10-second countdown unless NotDeadYet decides to keep going for it, and it looks like there has not yet been a tap out. Oh, there's the tap out, and the win goes to NotDeadYet. On now to Sherbert versus Dark Pummeler. Over in the blue corner there, we can see Dark Pummeler, very wide wheelbase, up against Sherbert, similar to a Weta-style beater bar kit. Very large beater bar on the front of that one. Some very large foam wheels there, those blue things. Dark Pummeler actually looks very similar to one we saw in the Antweight class. Dark 454, which did quite well, must be from the same person given the name. And my goodness, a good hard hit off that spinner on the front of Dark Pummeler as it rips the blue wheel right off of Sherbert. It's now down to one wheel, and it looks like the frame might be coming apart too. Another hard hit, chunks of metal going everywhere. What was that? I think that was one of the side guards off Dark Pummeler. Hard to tell. Boy, that just went amazingly quickly. But Dark Pummeler's weapon still working, going into Sherbert, pinning him up against the corner. Now getting his forks actually kind of stuck in the beater bar. It's a bit awkward, I'm sure, for Dark. But somehow Sherbert's still operating, and that spinner spinning up on Dark Pummeler very quickly, trying to come in for a hit here. Sherbert was moving, but suddenly has stopped, and it's tap out. The win goes to Dark Pummeler. Up next, we have French Press versus Dark Thrasher. We can see the square-looking French Press coming out of the blue corner there with that big lifter on the front, hitting Dark Thrasher from the side here. Interesting, it's got a horizontal spinning disc, kind of an undercutter, but way out on the end of an arm, looking more like a thwack bot than an undercutter, but I suppose that actually gives you a bit of both options here. You can see the weapon on Dark Thrasher scraping the ground constantly as French Press comes in hard against them, bashing them against the wall, causing them to flip over. And now the weapon is on the upper side. Not necessarily a bad position for it, but I imagine they don't have as good of magnets there as French Press comes and loops around quickly, grabbing Dark Thrasher, hitting him in the corner, knocking them into the pit, and Dark Thrasher has its weapon hanging over the edge of the pit, but I don't think they're going to be able to use that to get themselves out. They are basically high-sided on both ends, and the win goes to French Press. In the next fight, we have Impact Lab versus TBD1. The very low, wide, yellow thing, Impact Lab over there, those lots of long fingers, heading up against TBD1, a drum spinner, kind of a dual disc set up as a drum. Looks like it is symmetric and invertible, and I think already knocked upside down. Trying to get that weapon spun up, having a bit of trouble possibly now because Impact Lab has those forks deep into TBD, kind of jamming it in place there. Oh, there we go. TBD gets its weapon spun up again, flipping itself off of Impact Lab, who's still using the wide base and those long little fingers to get underneath it, pushing it over to the pit. In it goes, and I don't think there's any chance TBD is getting out of that one. So this one will go to Impact Lab. Now on to MrBeast versus Yuge. Yuge, the big black wide thing there, and this bizarre combination, MrBeast, this wedge bot with a big wide wedge on the front, gets flipped over onto its back by Yuge, and now seems to be stuck and immediately taps out. They realize that with that big wedge on there, there is nothing they can do once upside down, so that win goes to Yuge. In the next fight, we have Eclipse versus Chaos Unleashed. Eclipse, a vertical dual disc spinner there, up against Chaos Unleashed, this full-body tube drum spinner thing that we saw earlier on. Now it's got two new ends on it back together, spinning around wildly. Eclipse coming in, getting a couple of good hits on it, not sending it too far, but over the pit, but it's wide enough that it drives straight over the pit and right back out again. Another good hit there for Eclipse coming in, engaging fully into that drum of Chaos. This time Eclipse getting the better of Chaos, running into them a couple of times, flipping them back, but immediately coming back for more. And Eclipse doesn't have their weapon spun up, might be having a little bit of trouble controlling themselves, put themselves directly into Chaos Unleashed, who's just wobbling around wildly. So I do think there might be some weapon issues there. Oh, no, there we go. Chaos Unleashed, or Eclipse gets going back up again, takes a good hard hit at Chaos Unleashed. Both of them go flying backwards, Chaos off the wall, Eclipse into the center. Once again, a nice tap in the center, but unfortunately Eclipse now upside down, kind of riding around on those forks, the guards. It looks like they don't have both sets of drive wheels making good contact, and they are pivoting around on that one point there. So unless they can show some kind of controlled movement soon here, I do believe this will be going to Chaos, and sure enough, the win goes to Chaos Unleashed. Now we move to the B-side bracket here with Instant Gratification versus Son of Boy. And Instant Gratification this time without the big lifter part on top that we saw earlier on. Looks like, or maybe just using it in different configuration, this time with an underneath lifter up against Son of Boy, a dual vertical disc spinner. Gratification getting Son of Boy up against the wall. Boy having a little bit of trouble getting out of the corner, not really able to engage the weapon very well against the low Gratification with those long fingers out the front. But does have that weapon spun up. Gratification getting around Son of Boy, out driving them, grabbing them against the wall, and then hard into the corner, pinning them on top of themselves, up against the wall, hold them there for up to 10 seconds. does release and immediately comes back to the center trying to find a good opportunity. Son of Boy trying to find their way out, isn't quite able to avoid Gratification, who once again gets underneath and rams them over into the red corner this time, holding there for up to 10 seconds. Boy spinning up the weapon, hoping to maybe wiggle themselves off, not quite able to, and now trying again to get in on Gratification, but can't get close enough, can't get underneath in order to hit them with the weapon, as Gratification once again underneath pushes them towards the pit, but Boy manages to slip off at the last moment. Now both of them ramming into each other, Boy driving directly over top of Gratification, that low body making it easy for somebody to just drive straight over top. Once again, Gratification going for them. Son of Boy this time backing in towards them. Unfortunately for them, that makes it even easier to get underneath those lifters. And there we go. Gratification not only gets them, but uses the lifter to pin them up against the wall, actually spiking them, dragging them around the arena, bring them over to the pit, and narrowly, there we go, hangs it over the edge. Can they drop Son of Boy in there, try to get it off, but now it's stuck. Oh, that was such a wonderful move, bringing them directly over to the pit on a fork. Unfortunately, not quite able to drop them in, but has them right over the ledge, and it's going to be difficult for Son of Boy to get their way off of the ledge and out of this corner. The more they try, the more they end up getting themselves hooked into that back corner that's just a little bit narrower than they are, so they can't get both wheels down on the ground. Can't show controlled movement here. They are being counted down, and the win goes to Instant Gratification. Wonderful job using that lifter and that fork to drag them around and just lay them over the pit. This is a beautiful maneuver and the kind of thing you can really do when you have a simple but skilled weapon like that lifter or flipper attachment. Moving on, we have Dark Thrasher versus Unfaris Wheel. And you can see both of them with spinners. Here Unfaris Wheel has the vertical one, while that big horizontal one, Dark Thrasher, with whacking around right into Unfaris Wheel, hitting it from the side, an area where it is not nearly as well protected. A hard hit there as they both collide at the front, and you could see things bending on Dark Thrasher, but bounces off, keeps going. That weapon still going great. Wheel starting to come off of Unfaris Wheel, now flipped upside down. I see a chunk of metal on the ground there, and I believe that may have come off of Unfaris Wheel. A little bit difficult to tell. They both actually look like they're in fairly good shape other than that left side wheel there on Unfaris Wheel. Dark Thrasher pushing Unfaris Wheel backwards in towards the pit using those little forks at the end, and actually managed to get Unfaris Wheel high-sided on the ledge of the pit. Neither one of the drive wheels is on the ground, has no ability to get moving. They are being counted down by the judges. Not a whole lot they're going to be able to do at that point. The win goes to Dark Thrasher. Next we have TBD1 versus Hot Air. Both of them getting spun up very quickly here. TBD1 hesitant to come out as Hot Air meets them in the center, waiting for them to approach. A quick jab by Hot Air into TBD1, flipping them over and nearly into the pit. Another couple quick jabs by Hot Air, but ends up engaging and flipping itself back over as TBD hits the wall and gets stuck in place. Both of them now coming out to the center, and a hard hit. TBD1, I think, might have hit the weapon on Hot Air, either that or just the side, but threw Hot Air hard into the roof. This time now TBD hitting the wall itself and flipping all over the place, all that energy stored up in that weapon hitting right back into itself. Both are having a little bit of trouble controlling. I think they might both be upside down at this point, or just because they have those weapons spun up really fast, those gyroscopic forces causing all kinds of trouble as Hot Air comes in for a quick punch at TBD1 and deflects off, bouncing around a little bit there. TBD against the wall, trying to aim one, comes in fast for Hot Air, does manage to make contact, a couple chunks of something going flying. TB now sitting in the corner as Hot Air is trying to flank them, kind of coming around the outside again and again. TBD just patiently waiting in the corner. Not sure if they're just waiting to be defensive or if they're trying to find a good opportunity, but here they turn themselves a little bit and Hot Air gets a couple of really good hits on the corner as they see the opportunity arise. Once again, TBD actually this time facing away, unfortunately, as Hot Air gets the whole side. A good hard hit. Once again in the corner, flipping them into the pit. A clean dunk. No coming back from that one. They will count it down, but for sure this one will be going to Hot Air. In the second round, we move on to MrBeast versus Dark Thrasher. MrBeast got a little bit stuck last time with its huge wedge that had on the front. Now it's got that off. It's using its vertical drum spinner, flipping Dark Thrasher onto its backside and getting some grinding in on the rear end of Dark Thrasher as well. And a couple of really fast hits into the back, making Dark go flying. And we've got some wires, tape, something starting to come apart in the center of that long arm holding the weapon of Dark Thrasher. MrBeast going directly into the center of it again. Looks like he's trying to cut him down the center like a saw. Doing a great job of it so far. Thrasher back on its wheels correctly, but lots of chunks already starting to go missing here. Some those fingers on the back taking quite a bit of damage, getting bent up, but still functioning very well. Spinning around the side as MrBeast comes in for a really quick hit, a nice solid hit on him, flipping him over, and even more tape, wires, whatever the heck, carbon fiber maybe, hard to tell, but there is stuff falling apart on that arm there in the center of Thrasher, both spinning around trying to find a good opportunity. Beast managed to get a tip on him, and something has gotten jammed. Dark Thrasher no longer sitting on the ground, looks like one of those little finger projections on the back has folded underneath itself, so unfortunately unable to continue movement, getting counted out, and the win goes to MrBeast. Returning to the A-side bracket, we have Super Smash Power versus NotDeadYet. And a real fast rush out for Super Smash Power, hitting NotDeadYet, who had just gotten up to full speed, flipping all over the place there, landing upside down. Thankfully it is symmetrical, but often things aren't entirely symmetrical. A little lifter on Super Smash Power bringing NotDeadYet up onto its weapon, and all that power just causing it to fly all around the arena. Bit of a chunk out of the wall there, I believe, as it finally came to a rest on the opposite side of the arena. Trying to line up a good hit there. Smash Power going around the outside of NotDeadYet, who's pointing at him. A few good tips there. Smash Power getting into the corner of NotDeadYet, flipping it upside down once again. Weapon currently down as Smash Power is wedging it over towards the pit area, and unfortunately unable to get it over the ledge there. Weapon not coming back up on NotDeadYet, so might be some issues there, as both of them are running around after each other. Smash Power definitely on the offensive here, as NotDeadYet kind of trying to avoid for the first little bit. Of course, you know, a very bad position, doesn't want to be between his opponent and that push-out area, the pit in there. Smash Power low enough, able to get under the raised weapon there of NotDeadYet, doing a pretty good job on this pushing match, being control. Weapon does come back up now on NotDeadYet, fully up to speed. Oh, for a moment there, Smash Power exposed its back, but did manage to get the weapon, or the armor, out in front just before colliding with NotDeadYet, not taking too much damage off of that. Now both spinning up again. NotDeadYet chasing down Smash Power, but ends up putting itself into the corner, and Smash Power holding it there, hitting it with that little bit of a finger on the front there, that almost fishhook-like finger that he's got on the front. And now using his flat wedge to push NotDeadYet over towards the red corner. I think he's going towards the pit area, but wasn't able to direct them there quite the way he wanted to. Now this time hitting a little bit faster, getting completely underneath NotDeadYet, and able to high side and bring them over towards the red starting corner. Again, another push here as Super Smash gets underneath and wedges up against NotDeadYet, able to push them around. NotDeadYet trying to get off. Now finally gets his weapon spun up, and quickly Smash Power throws themselves into that fully charged up weapon and rips off that lifter arm that they have. So now taking some considerable damage as a result, but does manage to pin NotDeadYet up against the wall, sitting up on end. Oh, and the driver comes over, hits the wall, knocks the robot back onto its wheels, so it can still keep going. We've got 36 seconds left on the clock. Smash Power still very capable, even if half of its lifter arm is gone. NotDeadYet, last we saw, weapon was working, currently not spun up, as Smash Power taking advantage and constantly keeping the pressure on, getting underneath NotDeadYet, pushing them around, not giving them an opportunity to get spun up. Now holding them over by the pit area, 18 seconds, nearly has them over the edge of the pit. There he goes, gets the first half over there. Can he get the second half? Yes, he does. He's still got enough of the arm left that he's able to push NotDeadYet's corpse into the pit. And at the clock, the win will go to Super Smash Power. the next fight, we have Chaos Unleashed versus Noob Tube, both full body tube drum spinners, very similar in construction, although we can see Chaos, the yellow and blue with the kind of triangular tips, as opposed to Noob Tube in the orange and red with the round ends, both bouncing around wildly. Chaos going into the pit, but immediately driving right back out again. This is just kind of ridiculous. We have what amounts to 2 rolls of wrapping paper just running around wildly like they're full of gerbils or something as they bounce around on the floor, bouncing into each other, hitting the floor, hitting the walls, spinning wildly. It really is chaos in both cases. This time Noob Tube doing something interesting, not only spun up as the weapon, but then also spinning horizontally very quickly as well, almost like a thwack bot. Unfortunately losing control, heading towards the pit area, does manage to bounce off, but a lot of sparks going flying in the meantime. And Chaos Unleashed, seemingly out of control, stuck in the blue corner, not really able to progress inwards or make any kind of advances on Noob Tube. There we go, finally gets into the center a little bit. Things are definitely a little off kilter. You can see that Chaos Unleashed is wobbling around madly, really bouncing a lot, even though they're not really doing any particular movements here. Not that I could say Noob Tube is doing a whole lot better. They're just spinning wildly, full speed, full send. Neither one really able to progress towards their opponent, but you wouldn't want to get in the way of them, that's for sure, because there's a lot of energy built up in all of that spinning mass. And we just watch them pirouette randomly. It's like watching some kind of chemistry experiment, wondering if they're ever going to collide, and if so, what will happen. With just under 1:30 left on the clock, see if either driver can make their way over and try to make a coordinated attack. But for the moment, we have Chaos Unleashed over on the red side, Noob Tube on the blue side, and both just kind of hanging out, spinning around wildly. Chaos slowly bumbling their way over to Noob Tube. And now, as that happens, Noob Tube more or less getting out of the way, almost, I wonder, running away. Hard to say for sure just how much of this is intentional or not, as Noob Tube does hit the wall, bounces off towards the center a little bit there. Chaos, I think, maybe trying to advance towards them, unable to make any real progress, as we do have a little bit of a random tip-off here, Noob Tube into Chaos. Both, however, still bouncing around like wild. It looks like Noob Tube in particular, something maybe a little bit off balance. It's wobbling a little bit more so. Now they do actually manage to, Chaos makes their way over to Noob Tube, does manage to get a little bit of a touch there, hitting towards the pit area, but again, separated, bouncing around, this time Noob over in the red corner, Chaos towards the blue. Chaos looks like they're maybe actually advancing, getting their way over to Noob Tube, who's very much stuck in the corner out of control. Does get a little bit of a touch, but then immediately loses control as a result. Now down to 15 seconds, still wobbling around wildly. Anybody's chance at this point, because a little hard to say who's got the most, but we turn everything up to full speed, full send. We got 5 seconds left on the clock. Who's most likely to do the most damage? And the answer is neither of them, wildly flipping around all over the place. And this will go to a judge's decision, and they will decide the win in favor of Chaos. Now on to Impact Lab versus Dark Pummeler. That wide yellow-bodied Impact Lab coming in quickly against Dark Pummeler, who also has some long fingers on the front, gets a bit of an engagement off of that vertical spinning disc, taking some sparks out, but then immediately stalling out. Impact Lab holding Pummeler up against the wall, upside down, pushing them over into the pit. Pummeler's upside down, has a lot of energy in that weapon, tries to spin themselves out, but now has gotten high-sided, nothing contacting inside the pit at all, no ability likely to get themselves out, a little bit of bouncing, but not in time. The win goes to Impact Lab. For the next fight, we have Yuge versus French Press. French Press, a low wedge with a finger lifter on the front there, up against the absolutely huge vertical spinner bar there. And we've got Yuge running over top of French Press. Does manage to get a little bit of contact, but it's a pretty low target to try and hit. Thankfully, it looks like Yuge's weapon is at least nearly long enough to touch the ground. Not quite. French Press running around wildly trying to get a good approach, but a little bit squirrely, having a little bit of trouble actually lining things up correctly. Very fast turning robot, and you can see them kind of skidding out every time they try and take a turn. In the meantime, Yuge, weapon currently spun down, sitting kind of in the middle of the arena with French Press up against the wall, trying to find an opportunity to hit them. For Yuge, the only thing that really works well, though, is having that weapon spun up, and right now it is not spinning, so Yuge suddenly finding themselves at a huge disadvantage, and French Press, with its finger up in the air, ready to finally attack, trying to make its way around the Yuge. A difficult thing to do with such a tall, wide bot. You can see that even with that lifter on top, they can barely reach the main body of Yuge, so it's going to be difficult to really push them around much. See driving underneath Yuge, bouncing them up slightly, hitting into the wheel, and sure, you can hit it, bounces them around, but doesn't really manage to hold them long enough to get them going anywhere. In the meantime, Yuge just kind of spinning around in the center, not able to really find a good way to approach other than to drive towards an opponent, but not a lot that it can do to push, to pin, to... Oh, wait a minute. That's an interesting position. So one of the trailing arms on Yuge has hooked on French Press, pulling it up onto its back, and it looks like as a result, they're probably both stuck. Oh, I guess it was using it as a hold. Okay, yeah, that could possibly work. That has brought French Press onto its back, and now trying to self-right itself using that arm, but I don't think it articulates far enough over. Oh, ever so close, but not quite enough that it's able to flip itself. It looks like it could drive upside down. He's trying to get it flipped on its right side, having a bit of trouble doing so. Doesn't sound like they're counting him out and down just yet, but Yuge not approaching. Why would he bother? As French Press has got to figure out for themselves as to how they're going to get out of the situation. It is possible with just the right amount of drive to use that to flip yourself up, but judges have decided that he's not showing controlled motion, and therefore the win goes to Yuge. Once again, over into the B-side bracket, we have NotDeadYet versus Hot Air. And that big vertical or horizontal spinner on NotDeadYet spinning up to full speed. Hot Air as well, both come into contact, both go flying back. It looks like NotDeadYet maybe took the harder of that hit hard into the corner. Hot Air not quite as far back. Both spun up again, meeting in the center, a bit of a hard tip, and then a really hard smash by that horizontal spinner, taking large chunks of plastic off the side of Hot Air. That's going to start to compromise that weapon on there for sure. However, it is still working. Hot Air spun up, takes a bit of a hit at NotDeadYet, bouncing it back in the corner. NotDeadYet having trouble actually controlling themselves, too much speed there, and leaving their back exposed to Hot Air, who gets two, now three really good hits, hitting him against the fourth. Another four hits there in that blue corner, not letting them out. And NotDeadYet is no longer spinning up that weapon at the moment. Hot Air still going full speed, coming in and getting some good hits on NotDeadYet. Looks like we've got some damage to the rear end of NotDeadYet. There's some chunks coming out of that black plastic or steel or whatever's on the back end there, starting to come apart. Another couple good hits by Hot Air, flipping NotDeadYet into the air. And I would suffice to say that, yeah, I don't think the weapon is actually working anymore on NotDeadYet. You'd hope by now he'd used it. Hot Air for a moment getting stuck on some of the plastic that was remaining. Now with a tip on to NotDeadYet, who is hung up a little bit on the wall. Can't see if they managed to get their way off or if Hot Air coming in bounced them off, but now released and coming in. A hard hit there as Hot Air's weapon a third time hits the stalled out and stable weapon on the front of NotDeadYet. Makes for a really good thing to engage with and get some power on. Another hard hit from the back. Hot Air and NotDeadYet flipping them off the wall into the pit. There's no weapon on NotDeadYet to spin them up and try and get them out of there, so they will be stuck, and it is a win for Hot Air. Next up, we have Noob Tube versus MrBeast. MrBeast getting both of them actually spun up very quickly. And Noob Tube all the way across the arena into MrBeast before Beast even got off the line. Very fast-moving robot. Both of them going head-to-head here. Some sparks flying off. Both holding up well. Another hard hit there. This time Beast coming in full speed to Noob Tube, sending them into the air, landing back on the ground again. Noob Tube, compared to the last fight, seems to be having a little bit better time of controlling and directing their movement. And a good thing, too, because MrBeast not going to have a problem with that as they come in with their vertical disc spinner here, which is no longer spun up. And I'm seeing that the low kind of wedges on the front of MrBeast to bring the opponent into the weapon are starting to take some damage. So I think Noob Tube doing a good job of actually getting some good hits in there. Another one as they go face-to-face, and definitely some sparks coming off of MrBeast twice, 3 times now. Noob Tube approaching MrBeast. Hard to tell who is going after who, but they both seem at the same time to be approaching each other. Good for aggression on both sides, but so far the damage seems to be being done to MrBeast. Noob Tube wandering around the arena, bouncing over towards the pit, manages to slow down, stop, get control, coming back for another attack. MrBeast sitting in the middle of the arena. Oh my goodness. Noob Tube touches the wall, gets pulled across the arena by their momentum and into the pit, but bounces back out again. Tries for a hit there as MrBeast ends up bringing themselves into the corner and out of the way. Noob Tube stop up against the wall, trying to hit MrBeast, who is almost dodging more so than attacking. Now we can definitely see that there is a belt off of MrBeast, so that weapon is not working. A hard contact there as Noob Tube flips MrBeast completely upside down, and they are not moving. Looks like they're high-sided. You can see the wheel spinning, but there's no movement at all. Noob Tube bouncing into them. A hard hit, takes another one, and this time MrBeast pinned up against the edge of the wall. I can't see any way coming out of this one. They haven't tapped out, though, and Noob Tube isn't stopping. They keep hitting them, so we'll see. It is coming down to a count out here. It looks like drivers may be hoping to get MrBeast off the wall. Noob Tube comes in, says, here, let me try and help you with that. But they can't get moving, so the win goes to Noob Tube. Moving on, we have French Press versus Eclipse. Very fast rush in from French Press, just narrowly missing Eclipse as they get spun up and move over to the side, getting out of the way. Now meeting in the center, French Press getting underneath of Eclipse, riding on top of them, and managed to use lifting arm very skillfully to get Eclipse onto their backside. They are almost managed to bounce over into the pit, but thankfully they flip over, landing on their feet again, and now both at it in the center here. Eclipse fully sped up. French Press trying to wedge them over into the pit, narrowly missing. Another fast coming in here for French Press, trying to get underneath of Eclipse, trying to control them, while also trying to avoid that nasty weapon at the front. Narrowly misses another one there again. Comes across from the side, and Eclipse gets out of the way just in time. French Press once again directly into the weapon, gets underneath, and something is not entirely working correctly now with Eclipse. The left half of the weapon looks like it's come dislodged. It's kind of just spinning around on the shaft, but not properly coupled. So halfway's down. French Press trying to come in for a run, narrowly missing Eclipse each time, it looks like, and Eclipse this time drives directly into and over French Press, gets a little bit of a tip off of it, not a whole lot of damage in the process. Now both over in the corner. French Press successfully getting under and holding Eclipse up against the wall, who's holding half of the weapon up to speed. The other half is definitely disconnected at this point. French Press getting underneath, using lifting arm to get Eclipse a little bit off the ground, not a whole lot. Tries again over towards the side there. Nearly manages to flip them over, but unfortunately slips off of that lifting fork. Eclipse seems to be having a lot of trouble. They are consistently driving into the wall, doesn't seem to be able to back away from it. I think the front right drive is not working correctly, and as a result, it is continuously spinning around itself. And now we can see French Press underneath Eclipse, kind of holding it on top as Eclipse just keeps spinning the weapon, holding it against the corner for up to 10 seconds here. Now releasing it actually by pulling it off of its back using the lifting arm. French Press doing a great job making use of that really low articulated wedge there. A fast rush in by French Press coming underneath Eclipse. Eclipse, oh no, what has happened? Bounces off. So French Press bounces off of Eclipse, gets hung up against the wall. Driver comes over, knocks their bot back onto its wheels. It is upside down, It's still quite menacing in this configuration, but looked for a moment like they were going to try and flip themselves right back up. Wasn't quite able to, not sure if the lifting arm supports that. And so now running around with its backside into Eclipse and trying to get an attack there. A little bit difficult now to get the lifter into the correct position to be able to use it because it's a little bit off. And now actually using itself as kind of a three-finger jaw, using those two on the bottom and then the one that would normally be on the bottom to clamp onto and hold the side of Eclipse. We've got 10 seconds left on the clock. They will have to release before the end of the match and see what they can do from that point out. Are counting down. And match over. The win decided in favor of French Press. Next up, we have Dark Pummeler versus Instant Gratification. Dark getting up to speed there as Instant Gratification comes in very quickly using lifting arm to flip Dark Pummeler over, now holding them upside down, or actually not upside down, right side up against the wall, pinning them there for up to 10 seconds, releasing for a moment, coming immediately right back in. Not quite sure if that's a full release, but enough to be able to at least take another stab at them. Pummeler finally getting out just a little bit. Does not have the weapon spun up right now, but does use its forks to get under Instant Gratification, holding them against the wall. It's turning them around towards the pit, but getting hung up on the lip of the pit, not able to get them over top of it. Something is spinning. I cannot see if the weapon on Dark is actually spinning or if it's just kind of being hidden by the fact that it's on the camera here, but it must be spinning because we're getting some sparks. Instant Gratification getting underneath of Dark Pummeler, holding them up against the wall, waggling menacingly at them with that lifting arm on the front. Releasing here, and Dark trying to find their way to the corner, a little bit hung up on something there. As soon as they do manage to get out, though, Instant Gratification comes back in for another pin up against the adjacent wall. Almost tries to use the lifter, tries to get it upside down. This time actually lifting upside down on its back, and now Dark Pummeler, yes, the weapon definitely working, upside down, running around on top of that weapon, and it's, what would that be, left side drive? Yeah, left side drive is not working correctly. Right side still active, the weapon's still active, so there's a chance that Dark Pummeler can get out. Looks like, in this case, Instant Gratification is pinning Pummeler just slightly up against the wall just because of the way that things are configured. There, yeah, sure enough, as soon as it's able to let go, Dark Pummeler able to get out of the corner a little bit there, but you can see it can only really woggle around on the one side. That dead drive side is really holding it back, even with the ability to use some of that momentum and kind of wobble yourself around. Not able to get out. Instant Gratification taking advantage of this to pin it a couple more times. Once again, pinning it in place, waggling against it. Dark now not able to move at all. You can hear the weapon fully spun up, but neither drive side is working, so it will get counted down. Not a whole lot you can do to get out of this situation. Just took too much damage along the way. They are counting down. Just started the count a little bit late, but yeah, sure enough, there's nowhere that Dark Pummeler is going to be able to go at this point, and the win goes to Instant Gratification. We switch now back to the A-side bracket with Super Smash Power versus Chaos Unleashed. Chaos Unleashed getting up to speed quickly. Super Smash Power this time does not have the lifting arm at the front at all there, so just a low wedge. Must have gotten destroyed too much in the previous fights. Gets underneath the Chaos Unleashed, bouncing it around, and honestly, just having that hard wedge going to be a good tool against Chaos Unleashed, just to be able to withstand the blows long enough that Chaos is able to destroy itself, hopefully. And you can see Chaos getting a little bit of control back, still very difficult. And Smash Power just taking its time, waiting for the opportunity to attack. Does manage to hit Chaos into the corner, but in doing so, ends up getting full engagement against the weapon, stalling Chaos, putting the energy into Super Smash Power, flipping them backwards, but they do manage to land correctly back on their feet again, this time trying to hit from the side one of the feet of Chaos Unleashed, narrowly misses as Chaos bounces around out of control. For a moment there, Chaos actually advancing on Super Smash Power, but easily able to get out of the way, and Smash Power taking its time, trying to line up a hit. You can see Chaos really speeding things up, even though it's just sitting still. And Smash, hesitant to approach, needs to time it just right, hoping that they can get the damage to Chaos, to get Chaos to damage itself, rather than taking the brunt of it themselves. Slowly advancing, you see tipping it there without the full engagement, just kind of sparks and bounces off. So that worked out really well for Smash as Chaos headed towards the pit, but not able to fall in or get stuck there. As we've seen before, these really large tube spinners just cannot stay in that pit as long as they're spun up. But Smash Power holding them, controlling them very well, directing them where they want them to go, letting Chaos do the work to themselves. So excellent control being shown here by Super Smash Power as Chaos unleashed quite the opposite of it. Oh no, as they hit into the pit, lots of sparks, a bit of plastic coming off, quite a bit of damage to themselves as a result of engaging the sharp edge of that pit. Super Smash Power lining up, waiting patiently, actually just sitting back at this point, not moving at all, kind of waiting for things. And I wonder if something has gone wrong here, because Super Smash Power not moving Chaos yet, definitely. There's no way. Super Smash Power seems to be disabled all of a sudden, not working correctly. Chaos still able to move in easily and approaching them, bouncing in them slightly. Oh, there we go. Things finally got fired back up. Sometimes that happens with these bots, but Super Smash Power is back in the game, turning to face his opponent, and got control back, got movement back. Slowly again, trying to corner Chaos Unleashed, approaching just in small steps, waiting for the right moment. And in the meantime, Chaos just bouncing around. Chaos also starting to slow things down a little bit, it looks like. If they bring the speed down just a bit on it, gives them some ability to control it so they're not just bouncing all over the place. And they were able to make some progress towards Smash. But every time Smash gets the opportunity, getting in there, pushing Chaos around. And now Chaos, with 15 seconds left on the clock, is just ramping things up to full speed. Just getting silly to see what happens here. It is entirely possible with all that energy that it could do some serious damage if Smash were to try and approach and catch things at just the wrong moment. But 3 seconds left on the clock. Looks like both of them still in it. Comes down to the line, the judge's decision, and given all that wonderful control shown by Super, the win goes to them. Now back to the B-side bracket, we have Noob Tube versus Hot Air. And Hot Air coming in quickly, Noob Tube trying to get back up to speed. Good hard hit there, and actually Hot Air maybe taking the worst of it, flipping over backwards and out of the way. Noob Tube approaching very well, despite the fact that this is a very difficult thing to drive, despite the name. Oh no, and in contacting Hot Air, rolls over onto its back directly square into the pit. Good luck getting out of there. Just a really unfortunate bounce for Hot Air. Noob Tube celebrating as they deserve, because the win goes to Noob. On the A side, we have Impact Lab versus Yuge. Both of these very large robots. Yuge is the big black one with the gigantic wheels and that vertical drum spinner. Impact Lab, the low, wide wedge. And a hard hit there as that fully spun up weapon on Yuge, taking some chunks out of Impact Lab. A little bit of rips on the top. One of the fingers is bent sideways, but that doesn't stop Impact Lab from coming over and managing to pin Yuge in the corner. Actually a very difficult thing to do with these large robots, because normally they can just drive completely over you or wobble their way out, but manages to get them perfectly pinned in the corner with the flat side of the wheel up against the corner. So not a whole lot that Yuge can do. It's not like they have a ton of torque in those wheels. After releasing, now both stuck in the corner, and something is sticking. I'm not sure how Impact Lab is actually able to get such a good grab on Yuge, but slowly moves them over into the pit. Half of Yuge is in the pit. Again, too big to even fit in the entire pit, but those wheels do not have a lot of grab, and so there's no way Yuge can get out, and the win goes to Impact. On the B side, we have French Press versus Instant Gratification. and very fast French press coming out up against Instant Gratification. Both of these have lifting arms on the front. This time Instant Gratification getting the better and able to get under French press, pushing them over towards the push out into that pit area, but not able to get them over the wall. French press getting the better of Instant in this case, holding him against the red corner, releases and gets out. This time Instant up behind French press and actually lifts French up onto about 45-degree angle, pinned kind of between the wall and the pit area, the lip of that pit area. Looks like for the most part French press doesn't have wheels on the ground, but does have that lifter. Instant's going to have to let go for a moment, but looks like they're trying to get them pinned there. Unfortunately, luckily for French press, able to get off of the wall back into the fray. Tine to tine here, a very even pushing match. You can see these are essentially a very similarly designed robot, and Instant managed to grab French press, put them up against the sidewall almost on end, but then falling back upside down. So now French press is upside down, Instant Gratification right side up, and as we saw earlier, doesn't look like French press is able to right themselves with this particular lifter, so they are stuck upside down right now, trying their best. Instant Gratification getting behind and actually adds just a little bit of leverage so that French is able to fall onto their wheels again. So now an evenly matched fight, driver on driver, using essentially the same robots here. So this is really going to be a driving match more than anything. And Instant really playing around here, doing all these little S-turns as French press tries to figure out when to attack. Does manage to get a bit of a grab on Instant, getting underneath them and now up against the wall. Now using the lifter, getting them almost right-sided up. I think they're trying to get them fully onto the side. The lifter just doesn't seem to want to quite be able to get them there, unfortunately. Does have to let go. Instant gets out of the way. And now, once again, a tussle in the center as they both interlock with the tines, holding up. It looks like two scorpions fighting here, with their tails in the air, scaring each other. In the meantime, both trying to get some good positioning. Instant Gratification gets a little bit of a push on the side of French press over towards their right. Both attacking, both getting out of the way at just the right moment. Here, French press up against the wall. Instant Gratification managed to get just a moment in order to hold on to them, see what they can do there. But not long enough, as French press is able to get tines underneath Instant Gratification, tries to drag them over towards the pit area, not quite able to as Instant falls off. 45 seconds still to go. Both these drivers doing very well, really trying to get around each other, attack at the right moments, getting some good grabs, some good pins this time. Instant underneath French press, running them over into the red corner, and now both waggling their lifters at each other as neither is able to use them for anything. Instant can hold them there for a few seconds. I think if they were to drive backwards, yes, sure enough, that does release them, and then immediately comes in for another push and hit, although it does have to release. That wasn't enough time. 17 seconds still to go, this time putting the tines directly of French press up against the wall, so a really easy pin and hold here with 10 seconds still to go on the clock. Releases 8 seconds. Again, another volley back and forth here, maybe able to show another one, this time French press underneath holding Instant Gratification. 2, 1. Time is up. This goes to a judge's decision, and they decide in favor of Instant Gratification. This brings us to the A-side semifinals with Super Smash Power against Impact Lab. Both of these low wedge style ones, but Super Smash Power has that lifter, which they showed they were very capable with in the previous fight. However, Impact Lab has those really long tines, getting completely around and under Smash Power, bringing them up and into the pit just that easily. Wonderful driving by Impact Lab, brings them just over the ledge of the pit and into it. Super Smash Power has no way to get themselves out of it, and so very quickly the win goes to Impact Lab. On the B side, we go to Yuge versus Noob Tube. Both big spinners. Very quickly, Noob Tube spinning up, coming in as Yuge tries to get up to speed, not unable to get out of the corner in time. And here a good contact of Noob on the wheel of Yuge, but that sends Noob going flying back as Yuge stays largely in place. Those wheels certainly taking some damage on Yuge, but throughout the entire series of matches, doesn't really matter. They don't have to look pretty. They just have to work, and those things do hold up well. As Yuge getting into the center here, trying to direct themselves towards the Noob Tube, which just keeps flying all over the place. Looks like Yuge maybe themselves having a bit of trouble controlling it. You can see every time that they have to try and slow themselves down, they flip over, which certainly doesn't make it easy to direct this thing. Noob Tube very much kind of stuck in the corner, spinning at full speed as Yuge takes a moment to try and line up a hit. Does come in, does get a hit. And this time, a really hard contact on Noob Tube. Both of them full speed, and that sends a lot of energy into Noob Tube, holding Yuge in place. Thankfully for Noob, still working just fine. Yuge over in the one corner there, as Noob is, I think, trying to advance. However, something doesn't seem right here. They are able to get the weapon spun up. It's almost like that green side maybe isn't actually participating or something. Hard to say, but it's definitely not able to kind of drive in a somewhat straight line if it wants to. Huge weapon still working. The frame, however, the frame on Huge starting to not be so straight anymore. It's wobbling around, and that's making it very difficult for Huge to approach. You can see as it changes directions, the whole thing flexes like mad, and that is definitely not going to be good. That thing could come apart in half any time now. So trying to nonetheless line up towards Noob Tube. Noob Tube not able to really make very specific directional progress, but a very dangerous opponent nonetheless. So Huge has to be very careful. Does manage to line up a hit, comes into Noob Tube. Not very strong engagement, unfortunately, and so just kind of bounces off a little bit as Noob keeps tapping the wheels of Huge. When it does that, not a lot happens to Huge. It just kind of holds itself in place, but Noob Tube does go flying back, which could be a bit of a liability for it. In that case, they both come in contact, and once again, Huge locking itself to the floor as Noob Tube gets sent back about a quarter of the way across the arena. As the frame keeps bending on Huge, now that weapon that's supposed to be up in the air is starting to contact the floor, and that's making it difficult to control. It's making it difficult to get a whole lot of power to be able to put into their opponent. And so yes, we see that Huge now really kind of out of control, unlike how they were before, having difficulty getting towards their opponent. And in the meantime, Noob Tube just kind of sitting back and watching the show. Huge now bouncing off the arena floor into the wall, bouncing itself directly over top of, but not in the pit. Look how perfectly the wheels are in there. I say that too soon, though, however, as the weapon now puts Huge into the well, and now he can't get spun up. You got one wheel stuck in there. I don't know that Huge can get themselves out of here, and so the win goes to Noob Tube. Next, we have Chaos Unleashed versus Instant Gratification, the other tube drum spinner, up against Instant Gratification. Another nice low wedge with that finger in the front there. Looks like he doesn't have that on there. Lost that earlier on in the match, and probably just as well up against something like Chaos Unleashed. That's going to get ripped off very quickly if you're not careful about it. Chaos going full send, full energy here, and as Instant pushes themselves in and tries to stall out Chaos, takes the full brunt of it, flipping them across the arena. They did land on their wheels, but nothing is happening, nothing movement, no energy, so something must have died in that hit on Instant, and just that quickly, the win will go to Chaos. Noob Tube and Chaos Unleashed meeting up again, nearing the end of the B-side bracket. Both of these drum tube spinners fully up to speed as Noob Tube comes in fast. Chaos Unleashed having a little bit of trouble getting out of the corner, seems to be quite a bit off balance. Noob Tube seems to be spinning very nicely, whereas Chaos Unleashed you can see is wobbling a lot more every time it tries to spin up. Noob Tube getting into one of the ends of Chaos, getting a little bit on there, pushing it around. Looks like this Noob slowing it down, trying to take an advance against Chaos, who is bouncing around in the center. Noob Tube finding themselves in the center, tries for a very quick attack against Chaos, but misses. Hard to hit such a wobbly opponent, even if you think you might be able to line them up, which is hard to do with these things in the first place. Then all of a sudden your opponent bounces around out of the way. And that's especially the case with how much we flex and bouncing. We see in Chaos Unleashed there, it looks like Noob Tube maybe a little bit straighter, a little bit more even, although both flexing very hard and bouncing around wildly as they come into each other. Noob Tube tries for an attack on Chaos, kind of drives over and around a little bit, missing. And once again, actually this time does manage to hit part of the foot, the yellow side there on Chaos Unleashed. Noob Tube actually doing a good job holding up pressure. There we go. Pushes the yellow end of Chaos into the well. And these things don't actually have that much torque. They're more about speed, not about torque. Oh no, Noob, what are you doing? Don't put yourself in there as well. Oh, and just at the last second, as he gets counted out, the win goes to Noob Tube. At the end of the B-side bracket, we have Super Smash Power versus Noob Tube. Noob Tube spinning up quickly and trying to come across. Smash Power taking a little bit of a slower stance, working its way over towards Noob Tube, getting underneath and tries to get for a nice quick attack there, but Noob Tube bouncing around, comes off of it. Tip to tip as Super Smash Power goes into Noob Tube, bouncing around a little bit. Some small sparks as Noob Tube grabs the ground, drives into the pit, but immediately bounces right back out again, slowing down, trying to get things lined up, take a little bit of a chance at it. Smash Power not advancing, just waving around that little lifter, waiting for its opportunity. Noob Tube fully up to speed now, coming in over into the corner. Smash trying to get around it, approaches it from what I can only refer to as the backside, considering that it is spinning, and tries to get into one. Oh wow! And Noob Tube somehow just managed to grab Smash Power perfectly on the edge, lifting it up, and as it goes across the arena, carrying with it. And getting Smash Power onto its side. Smash Power towards the wall, trying to get itself, oh my goodness, trying to get itself self-righted against the wall, having trouble doing so. Noob Tube hits it again and into the corner, and now it is stuck over towards the pit area, but it's hung up on it. It doesn't have enough wheels on the ground to really get movement here, and so the win goes to Noob Tube. Congratulations. Coming up to the A-side final, we have Impact Lab versus Noob Tube coming up from the B-side. And we have a third robot in here as well. I'm not sure why we have the Antweight in here. But yes, we have 3 robots flying around here. I'm imagining Impact Lab was low on weight. Hard to say exactly, but we do see that, yeah, Impact Lab running around, Noob Tube as well. Noob Tube hitting the wall, bouncing high up on the wall, coming back into the center now as Impact Lab trying to get underneath and bring Noob Tube supposedly over towards the pit area there. Noob Tube bouncing around all over the place into the pit, comes back out again and into the center of the arena as Impact Lab tries to get underneath them, but gets in the way of the third bot. Impact Lab heading towards Noob Tube over towards the wall by the red corner there, unable to really get under and engage very much in it, and now hooking the other bot that it has in here with it, that little Antweight, getting in the way once again as Impact Lab trying to follow Noob Tube around, and this third bot just keeps getting in the way. Could maybe be useful if they're able to coordinate and keep Noob Tube in one place so they can actually kind of pinch and get out of the way. But in the meantime, kind of just more of an obstacle than anything, as Impact Lab consistently following around Noob Tube, trying to get underneath, trying to hook it, direct it, put it wherever it can go. Once again, that third bot just in the way and making it difficult for Impact Lab to continue following as Noob Tube just keeps spinning, just keeps bouncing all over the place. But Impact Lab slowly but surely getting Noob Tube over towards the wall, kind of pinning it in there a little bit, holding it in place at the very least, not really taking any damage, surprisingly, despite the fact that it's been putting itself into the spinning Noob Tube so many times over, but not a lot of damage being shown so far as it once again into Noob Tube, who contacts slightly, flies over top, bouncing around. Is partly could be because of the high speed that Noob Tube is currently at. Oh no! And now Impact Lab actually using the third robot as a bit of cannon fodder, putting it into Impact Lab. And there is a red chunk of plastic. It looks like part of one of the wheels maybe has come off of Noob Tube here, which is going to make it difficult because this thing was already not that well balanced. Oh no! And sure enough, the wheel completely comes apart. Now this thing is flying around like mad. The fact that it's even working surprises me because I don't know what it's spinning with. It only has one wheel. But sure enough, it just keeps flopping around. 38 seconds left. somehow it's still able to spin up, even though it only has one wheel. I suppose that's enough to do something, but it's going to be completely uncontrolled movement, obviously. There's no way to direct itself, so really it's just spinning around free on one end. 25 seconds left to go. Impact Lab gets it towards the corner, manages to stall it out momentarily, gets underneath it, and is trying to use its little arms possibly to drag it around, pinning it against the wall. 15 seconds left on the clock. Releases for a moment. Comes right back in again. Unfortunately for Noob, there is nothing left on that one end. Hard to fight back when you only have that one wheel. 5 seconds on the clock, getting counted down. And the winner will be Impact Lab for the finals. Congratulations, the first one to do any real major damage to Noob Tube.
Okay, second. First place is Impact.
Impact!
Camden,
Impact!
come collect your precious trophy.